He paid attention to who had family nearby and who didn't, who had money and who was desperate, who could disappear without causing immediate alarm. Most of his victims were young women who came to Chicago searching for opportunity during the early 1890s. They arrived alone, hoping for work, independence, or a fresh start. Holmes offered exactly that: jobs, marriage, security. Then they vanished. He later confessed to 27 murders. Investigators believed the real number was far higher, possibly over 100. The true total may never be known. What makes his story even darker is the timing. Chicago was preparing for the World's Columbian Exposition, an event meant to showcase human progress and innovation. Millions would flood the city, strangers arriving daily, boarding houses full, identities easy to lose in the crowd. Holmes saw opportunity. In the Inglewood neighborhood of Chicago, he began constructing what he called the World's Fair Hotel. It appeared respectable, a normal business, shops on the first floor, guest rooms above. But the construction process was strange. Contractors were hired and abruptly fired. Workers were dismissed before projects were completed. No one was allowed to see the full design. Only Holmes knew the entire layout, because it wasn't just a hotel. It was something else, something designed in sections, compartmentalized, hidden. A structure built not simply to house guests, but to control them. And once someone stepped inside, they were exactly where Holmes wanted them to be. Holmes didn't build the hotel for guests, he built it for control. Every section of the structure served a purpose, not comfort, not hospitality, control. The layout was intentional, engineered to confuse, isolate, and silence. The building itself became part of the crime, a mechanism, a system. After his arrest, newspapers would give it a name, the Murder Castle. It wasn't exaggeration. Inside, the floor plan made no sense. Hallways twisted unexpectedly. Corridors ended without warning. Staircases stopped at blank walls. Some doors opened into small, sealed spaces. Others locked from the outside. It wasn't poor construction. It was strategy. The design created disorientation. Anyone trying to escape would quickly realize the building did not behave the way a building should. Familiar instincts failed. Directions meant nothing.
The longer someone searched for an exit, the more the structure seemed to close in around them. There were hidden doors placed throughout the upper floors, accessible only from certain angles. Passageways that allowed movement without being seen. Rooms that could be entered without warning. Some floors were fitted with trap mechanisms. And beneath it all was darkness. The hotel wasn't chaotic. It wasn't random. It was deliberate. A maze designed by one man, not to keep people out, but to make sure they never found their way back out. Some rooms inside the hotel were soundproof. Not partially insulated, completely sealed. Once the door closed, nothing escaped. Not footsteps, not panic, not screaming. The walls absorbed everything. If someone realized too late that they were in danger, no one outside that room would ever know. Other rooms were fitted with hidden gas lines. From his office, Holmes could turn a valve and redirect gas into a selected chamber. The door would lock. The air would change, slowly. There would be no immediate violence, no struggle that echoed down the hallway. Just confusion, weakness, silence.
By the time the door reopened, resistance was gone. What happened next rarely left the room. The building allowed Holmes to remain distant from the act itself. He didn't need chaos. He didn't need confrontation. The structure did most of the work for him. And below it all was the basement. Investigators later described it less as a storage and more as a workspace. There was a table designed for dissection, large chemical containers, a furnace capable of reducing evidence to ash. A concealed chute connected upper floors to the basement, allowing bodies to be transported without being seen. The design was systematic, efficient, clinical,
Holmes understood anatomy, he understood decomposition, he understood how to make a person disappear. Some remains were burned, some were dissolved, some skeletal structures were reportedly cleaned and sold to medical institutions, a final transaction in a chain of calculated decisions. Most of his victims were young women who had come to Chicago alone during the surge of visitors surrounding the World's Columbian Exposition. They were looking for employment, stability, marriage, independence. Holmes offered opportunity. He studied who lacked close family in the city, who could vanish without immediate alarm. In a metropolis overwhelmed by arrivals and departures, disappearance was easier than anyone wanted to believe. The fairground celebrated innovation and light. Only a short distance away, inside a brick building in Chicago, something quieter was happening. People checked in, and some of them were never recorded checking out. The scale of Holmes' crimes was staggering. He wasn't simply a killer moving from victim to victim. He built an environment that allowed killing to become routine, structured, planned, repeated. Dozens died, possibly more. The true number may never be confirmed. What unsettles historians isn't only the violence, it's how easily he blended in. Holmes maintained the image of a respectable businessman, educated, well-spoken, reliable. People trusted him. That trust was part of the design. Ironically, he wasn't captured because of the hotel. He was arrested over an insurance fraud scheme involving his associate Benjamin Peitzel. Holmes had orchestrated a plan to fake Peitzel's death for a payout. Instead, Peitzel was actually killed. The investigation stretched across multiple states.
Alayhi Salam authorities followed the trail of fraud. Inconsistencies began to surface. Lies overlapped, names changed, stories didn't align. And slowly, the focus shifted. What began alayhi salam financial deception evolved into something far darker. When investigators finally examined the building in Chicago, the structure revealed what witnesses never could. Hidden rooms, sealed chambers, a chute leading downward, tools and chemical evidence in the basement. The press would later cement its name, the Murder Castle. Holmes was put on trial and eventually sentenced to death. On May 7, 1896, he was executed at Moyamensing Prison in Philadelphia. Before his execution, he offered partial confessions. Some believed he exaggerated, others believed he minimized. Even in the end, he controlled the narrative. That may be the most disturbing part. Not the maze, not the gas lines, not the basement.
But the fact that he lived among thousands of people during one of the brightest moments in American history, and no one truly Saladin him. While the world celebrated progress, invention, and light, a man quietly perfected disappearance. And somewhere inside that brick building, behind sealed doors and silent walls, history left a space where names should have been. Some stories end with justice. This one ends with uncertainty and empty rooms.